Good morning. Good morning. I'm so excited to greet you this morning. Looking forward to our time together. As you come in, just greet us. Let us know where you are, how things are where you are. Looking forward to spending time with us this morning. I'm so enjoying our journey through Stony Heart. Book club has been amazing. It's been amazing, 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 amazing. Yes, it has. Good morning, Jennifer. It's good to see you this morning, chiming in, praying all is well where you are and that you are enjoying just another day and an opportunity to breathe again, as my daughter told us on Sunday. Breathe again, breathe again. Just so excited and excited about spending this time with us. I'm just going to give a minute or two for others to join us. Looking forward to our time together today, our time of discussion relative to this book, Stony Heart. And I'm praying that everyone has gotten their copy and you have begun your read. This is really a good book and a good pair with our book, The Unkept Heart, that we focused on during the month of January. Some real good nuggets, and I'm excited about just sharing some of these nuggets with us to help us migrate through some of those things that we might not understand, help us to bring context to them, but also to help us to heal. We want to heal. We want to be better. We want to do better. We want to live better. We want to heal. And so I'm excited and looking forward to our time together on today and this particular book. It's a goodie. It's a goodie. I love reading. I have always loved reading. Um, I love stories, but I love more than just stories, more than just fiction. I love books that help me to grow. I like books that help me to grow, that give me tools that help me to grow and to move further and to move in the direction of being whole so that when I handle people, because I'm a people helper, I'm helping them. And so I love reading. I love reading. I love books that will make me better, that will help my inner man. To grow, to heal, to acknowledge, to recognize, yes, those things that would help me to love from a healthy place. Yeah, those things that will teach me to love from a healthy place. And so I'm excited. And I'm looking forward to our time together on today. I'm looking forward and I'm in great expectation. Good morning, Latalian. Did I say that right, Latalian? I never want to mispronounce anyone's name because I grew up with people mispronouncing my name. So I want to make sure, Latalian, did I say that right? Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Excited about our time together this morning in book club. I'm excited, and just looking forward to doing some sharing from our book of the month, Stony Heart. It's by Denise Boggs. And it's a small book. It's a small book and it's a workbook within a book. It's really small, but it's so power packed. Even from the beginning, she wastes no time getting us to the place that she desires that we be in, that we operate in. I want to make sure here that we are in here because I'm looking and it looks like I'm still okay. Want to make sure that we're not freezing. Okay, there we are. Good morning, Bree. Good morning. A woman we're holding on to, Barbara. Good morning to each of you. So excited about this morning. I'm going to bring in one of our core this morning, and she's going to talk through this with me because this is a good one. This is a goodie, and I don't want to talk through this one alone. Okay, I'm bringing in women we're holding on to, Violet. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Violet. How are you this
Morning.
morning, darling?
I'm great. You?
Good, good. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Thanks for asking. We have Ree in here. She's joined us this morning. We have a woman we're talking to, Barbara. We have Latalian, and then we have, I believe, Jennifer. believe that was Jennifer that joined us as well so far, and looking forward to those others who will be joining us. Good morning. Hey, you all tell me, am I freezing? Is the screen freezing? I want to make sure sometimes in the morning my screen does not want to cooperate and act right. Am I freezing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I'm looking like I'm going to move me out some and then we're going to dive into this wonderful book this morning. Okay. Thank you, Ree. Okay, Ree, you said everything is good. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so our book for the month is Stony Heart by Denise Boggs. Last month, again, our focus, we did our deep dive into the unkept heart. And we just took a look at what happens when we don't guard, when we don't take care of, we don't protect our heart, when we allow others to be the babysitter or the nanny of our heart. Yeah, that internal part, the babysitter and the nanny of the seat of our will, our emotions, our passions, our desires, our thought life. When we let people get in our head, yeah, when we don't guard that space, because when they get in our head, they have the ability to control our thoughts and strongholds established, and it tanks, it changes how we see. When we allow people access, access without making them responsible or them proving that they can be responsible with the access that we have given them, then we leave ourselves this open prey. And from the unkept heart, I just shared how I just left myself open. I didn't protect, and I left myself open sometimes to the same people who kept doing the same things over and over again. And the unkept heart even led us back to this place of childhood and me identifying one of those instances where I knew this started. One of those instances that showed where I had not addressed, but I tried to keep going. As if it didn't exist after it happened. And so Denise Boggs, this book, Stony Heart, pairs so well with it. And last week we began looking at how things from childhood, actually parental involvement, parental interaction, how it affects the condition of our heart. And we took a look at even a yell from a mom or a slamming of a door or the leaving of a father, how all of those cause us as children, because we don't know how to respond, we don't know how to interpret it, to begin developing these stones in our hearts where our heart starts closing off, and we move into these places of responding according to our experience and what's happened to our heart. So Violet, last week as we talked about that, we talked a little bit about those stones, remembering, she even takes us in the workbook part, remembering the first instance or going back to childhood to identify some of those things that happened that's made us who we are now. As we were discussing that, what came to mind for you as we began discussing that, and your mind went back? I shared last week how I didn't experience my parents, yelling or anything like that in the house. I didn't come up in a household where it was that type of interaction. Mine was more silence. It was more silence. You could feel discomfort when it was silent, but it wasn't the yelling, it wasn't the slamming of doors. I never saw my parents disagree, or fall out, anything like that. So for you, what was your experience? Guarding vulnerability, just what you are comfortable sharing. Okay.
Well, mine was even coming up in my childhood, being
Mhm.
raised by a parent. And for those who do know my mom, she's really strong. So it made me look different at life as a whole, even in my adulthood now with raising my kids. That was a sensitive subject, but it was a necessary subject. It did make me go back and think, even coming up, had a decent upbringing.
Yeah.
For the most part. Uh, did ex- uh, did have some letdowns, but again, it made me be a better parent, and it made me even go back to think, what can I do different as parenting now? So that subject was a necessary subject, but it made me look back at my upbringing, what could have been done different, because again, how I feel is my upbringing has a lot to do with my adulthood, and how I interact, how I raise my children.
Hmm.
And as you stated, you had the quietness. Mine was a little opposite. being raised pretty much. My mom always had two, three jobs at a time. So my sister kind of raised us. Um, so she was the mom, but she was always leading by example. So like I said, we had, I had pretty much a good upbringing. Um, but it was five of us. So it was always right
Hmm.
and agreeing and disagreeing, but for the most part it made me think back. So I had to go back and revamp. I had to even go back and apologize to my children for some of the yelling that I do and some of the disagreeing that I do, because I felt even with what she talked about in the book, you can agree to disagree, but in the same token, it's a matter how you do it.
Okay, so for me, that's good. You did some introspection there. You did. That's good for me. Although in my home, um, it was not a lot of passionate communication. That's what I called it because I shared last week. My husband's passionate with his communication. Very expressive. He's a talker. I was not a talker because, again, that was not my experience. So my perception was that it was not happening. That did not mean that my mom and dad were not having discussions and that they agreed with everything, but they did not do that in front of us. So my perception was what I saw. And that formed my opinions on interaction and relationship and other people. And for me, it was the silence. It was the silence. Okay, so I knew Mama might have been upset if she was quiet with you. She was silent. She'd express it, or even if a whooping was coming, sometimes there would be seasons of silence, and my brother and I would think, okay, she forgot about it. She forgot about it. She was just trying to get herself to a place of disciplining, not out of anger over what had transpired, but out of necessary love to make sure that the behavior would not be repeated. And so silence was what I experienced. I never remember hearing doors close, but I remember even in the silence, there was an instance in my adulthood where I made a decision that impacted my family, changed my life, and it brought harm on me. And I remember sitting next to my dad, and he just simply said, he didn't yell at me. He said, I'm disappointed in you for putting yourself in a position to be taken advantage of. Oh, that cut me so deep. And I cried. That hit me at the core of my heart. It hit me at the core of my heart. It didn't take yelling, but just to know he was disappointed, that he was not pleased, that I had let him down. That for me, oh God, um, it hurt, but then it changed how I responded to everyone. I remember, and this was what I would think I was 18 at the time. And I remember at that point, I shut my heart off and I just became cold, unfeeling. I would do things that my mom would say, do you love us? Do you even care? And I wouldn't respond. I gave her the silent treatment. I went to a place of being numb. And if you've read the book, she describes these characteristics when you go into defensive or protective mode. I just shut it off and I shut everybody out. That was my way of dealing. So they had no idea the pain that I was experiencing, but some major stones were being established in my heart. Um, I want to talk about this unconditional and conditional love that Denise Boggs talks about in the first portion. It's in those pages 1 through 13. I know we've read 14 through 28 for today, but we cannot skip this section because it is so critical to how we interact with one another. And she describes this love in here. I want to read a portion, and then by that, I kind of want us to talk about this. Because this was so key. It helped me again to identify some things that were going on in me. Yeah. Yep. And so conditional love, the author says, in a home of conditional love, there are always conditions to meet before an affirming word of love and acceptance are given. When parents set high standards and don't allow for imperfections, this gives the message that love must be earned. In this environment, children believe they can't mess up or fail. They must work hard to be good enough to be loved. She describes this as rules without relationship. Conditional love will cause performance orientation instead of authentic relationship. It causes you to work so hard to please others and even God. But the stones, in your heart keep you from giving and receiving from an authentic flow. A very subtle but real symptom of a stony heart is an inability to receive from others. That is huge. Violet, you smiling, but you know what I thought about? Remember when we first came, we were pastoring at Brotherly Love, and I had a hard time receiving. Had a hard time receiving even basic things. I just had a hard time receiving from others. And I looked at that conditional love. Um, as I read it, I thought about my perception and how I thought I had to earn the love of my parents and earn the love of God through being my best, through doing my best. And if I messed up, it would put me in bad graces. I remember once sitting in the car with my father, and there was a young lady from the church who I just found out that she was pregnant. She wasn't married, and I was just sharing with my parents, that someone had indicated that she was pregnant. I didn't do it from a bad place, but my father's response, um, I could tell in his tone, he didn't yell. If it can happen to her, it can happen to anybody. You know, um, and he just stated that. But for me, I took it as he thought she was better than me and he esteemed her higher than me. This is just how I internalized it, and how I took it in as a child. Okay. So for me, that took me to a place of, again, another stone being formed in my heart because my dad started to pastor. I think I was about 5, his first pastorate. Before he pastored, all of his time was spent with me during the day because he worked night and my mom worked days. And so that was my time. And when he started pastoring, I felt replaced. Um, I felt like I came second to the people at the church and that they had more of him than I had of him. It was hard. I couldn't understand as a child, all of this time he would do my hair. We would go to the zoo together, just everything, we would do together. And all of a sudden that time was gone. So my interpretation, that was just another instance of, okay, yeah, he loves them more. He likes them better. And I did begin to do things to try to get his attention and to earn his love when I never had to earn my daddy's love. I never had to earn my mother's love. When I'd mess up, it would take me to these places far beyond how they would penalize me, far beyond. And I would hold, even if they wouldn't, I would hold on to it. It sent me to places of trying to hide, even through lying and trying to cover up. That deception, manipulating is all a part of being dishonest and trying to cover, so that others don't see, so that they don't find out. And because if they find out, then they're going to think differently about me. They're going to see me differently. They're not going to like me. They're not going to love me. And that didn't just translate there, but it translated into other relationships that I'd have and caused me to build these walls that she talks about in these first 13 pages. But I want to hear from you because I could go on and on about this area. Because it was revolutionary, revolutionized my life when I began discovering this particular area with this conditional love. Conditional love. Tell me, okay, conditional love, is that how you perceive things in your childhood? That love for you was based on, it came with the condition of your being perfect, and if you weren't perfect, you weren't loved.
No, definitely not. Because out of the 5 of us, I would have to say I was the child that always stayed in trouble. So it was like I had always had the attention. Right? It was good attention. I mean, good, or bad, but I'm always was the one that got the calls from the school. So it was like, okay, I get their attention either way. So it was never based off of conditional love.
Uh-huh.
But I did know my mom loved me.
Okay. Okay, so with that, you said it was not based on conditional love, but unconditionally. Um, so you made a comment. You'd get their attention, even if it was by getting in trouble. Okay. So
Yeah,
even if,
because I've always had their attention because it was always me or something. If it was school or
uh-huh,
fighting with my siblings,
uh-huh.
my mama always tell me, even now in my adulthood, them premature babies is always the one to grow up and be the bad babies. And I was only 1 pound and 2 ounces, but
Uh-huh.
um, I've always been the one to always kept things together. Meaning, when it came to that love, it was like, okay, even if we got into it, it was always me to come back and say, okay, well, let's do it this way or let's do it that
Mhm,
way. So, I never felt like I've always had their attention, pretty much.
mhm. Okay. Okay, you came in needing that attention as a
Yeah.
preemie. You came in needing that attention. Whereas I'm the oldest, so there's always a different expectation. There's a perceived different expectation by the oldest child.
Okay.
Um, Perceived expectation. I perceived, I thought as the oldest child, that there were certain things that I had to do in order to maintain and keep the love of my parents. Even at I was 4.5 when my brother came, and I remember, they had his bassinet in their room. So my mom would wake up and I'd be laying on the floor outside of their room, because again, before him, it was just me. It was me and daddy, and I would be on the floor sleeping at night because here's this baby in a room with mama and daddy. And I feel like I'm the outsider now, and so what they did was they moved his bassinet to my room, and Tony became my baby. He became my baby, like Letta became mama. He became my baby. And to this day, he's still my baby. um, but it gave me a sense of responsibility and expectation that was not spoken. Okay, it wasn't spoken, but I took it as this is what I have to do. This is how I should be acting. And if I don't, you mentioned that you've always had that attention, that I wouldn't have the attention that I was accustomed to. Okay. Um, that conditional love. Denise Boggs says, if you have stones in your heart, it takes time for a person with a stony heart to feel safe enough to open up and share their childhood experiences in order to get to the root of overreactions out of fear of anger as an adult. If they were scolded and yelled at growing up, they will do anything to avoid conflict and yelling. They must find a safe place with safe people who will not yell or judge them, but instead listen to their pain and love them unconditionally. That was powerful for me, because it wasn't the yelling. I did get, whippings as a child. My parents disciplined. Yes, I had fear of the whippings. My mom and I, we talked my adulthood, and she said a lot of that. She said she didn't have to do. She could have just talked to me. Then now you realize those
Yeah.
whoopings, now you realize it didn't take that from me. It didn't take that from me. But we talk about that. And when she mentioned that, what came to mind, because a lot of my freeing has taken place through my marriage. And you've heard this before, Violet, because we've walked together. Oh, been in your life almost 25, 30 years now, girl. Through my husband. And I remember even taking that behavior and that perception into marriage. I remember lying to my husband about something that had happened, and he exposed it. He knew the truth. And I remember going and locking myself in the bathroom like I was a little kid. I locked the door, and he was knocking on the door. I wouldn't say anything. He kept saying, open the door. And I finally opened the door. And, he just reassured me, you don't have to do that. I love you. But let's be honest. And that was more of a difficult task for me than he knew. Because it was so deeply embedded to hide, to try to cover, because you're not going to be loved the same if he finds out that you really did what he's asking you. If you did, I mean, just that child, I was still captive to all of that. But in that moment, I felt so exposed, vulnerable. I felt like I'd been outed. But in that place, he wasn't, he didn't go silent with me because, again, he's a communicator. But he loved me. He didn't love me any different. He didn't talk to me any different. He didn't see me any differently. And that began this journey of me finding safety through my husband in marriage. Yeah. That began my journey of experiencing the unconditional love of the Father through my husband. Um, and it reaffirmed all the more that this was a God thing. This was a God thing. My marriage is a God thing. He knew what I needed, and he knew what my husband needed. um, this unconditional love. There are a couple of passages. 1 John 4:16 through 17. And we have known and believed the love that God hath to us. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. um, let's see. And then 1 John 4:7 through 8. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. And so our loving really is based on our experience, how we receive love, how we receive. So that's why, even with you wanting to just simply do groceries for our family when we came to the church, I was walled up. I was like, nah, no, she can't do that. And then I don't want it to go back and say we taking advantage of this girl, and just all the stuff. I don't want her coming back and saying I did all this for them. It's like, no, we good where we are. We got it. Because I have all this stuff wrapped up in there, which made it difficult for me to receive, and for me to just keep you where you were, stay on that side of your wall. I got it. Yeah, we might need it a little bit, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. We've been figuring it out, and just smiling. And I would smile and tell you, no, that's okay. Thank you. Yeah. um, but that just came from a place of those stones, and me learning how to survive by keeping those stones intact, keeping them intact. It asks a question because I just mentioned safety. There are just so many nuggets in these first 13 pages. There's stones of protection, the protecting wall, built by stone, hurt after hurt, self-protecting, can't trust, a block to receiving love from others, keeps the real you in and others out, fear of rejection, keeps you from being real, lonely, isolated from meaningful relationships, keeps others at a distance, not sharing who you really are. Those are signs of a stony heart, and that's a protective wall. And then it asks the questions, after overcoming a stony heart: who is your safe person? And I mentioned my husband, is my safe person. I went from a place of not talking much to just listening, and him having to try to pull out of me in conversation, to now I think I talk so much, so much. He's like, can we find an in between? Because I'm very expressive now. For me not to express is for me to go back. And that would cause stones to redevelop in my heart, that it took me years. It took me so long for those stones to disintegrate, and I don't want to go back. So he's one of my safe people. He's the biggest safe person. Who would you say is your safe person, where you can just release, be honest, so that you're not walling off, so that you're not stoning up, so that you're not separating, because the desire for the Father is relationship, and that we connect. Who's your person, Violet?
I would definitely have to say it would be you. Because even
Oh.
from the beginning, I was able to share. And I used to always say, even at Brotherly Love, like, did she ever go through anything? Because she always kept a smile on her face. She always had an encouraging word. Ever since I ever came in contact, it was always an encouraging word. It was never a place of judgment. And like I say, you would never know that you went through anything, because it was always, oh, either you had a word, you always was real, and you always made yourself open. So it was like I wasn't never able to go through something, and it's like, do you, it all, we always question. And even to today, talk to a couple people from Brotherly Love, like Akila, and I'm like, she was like, first lady, still first lady. I say she gonna always be first lady. She gonna always keep it real. And then I would have to definitely say Annie. I feel like I can share anything with her, even in her her situation now, I can pick up the phone and call Annie, and she gonna have a word, or she's gonna have an encouraging scripture or something. Oh, you can make it. You can get through it.
Mhm.
You know. And then I will have to say, a woman worth holding on to is where I got my freedom from being in that stony place. Because at a point in time, I felt like I had to always stay busy, or go help this person, help that person, despite them using me, or felt like I was being used.
Mhm.
Um, I've always been in a place of help, wanting to help somebody or a situation, but I had to learn the difference and set those boundaries. So those are my safe places and my free places. Yeah.
Amen. That's wonderful. Everybody needs a safe place, a place where they're free to mess up. I remember having a conversation with my first lady, Pastor Tawanda, and as we were looking at how our relationship should look, you have to know where people, what role they serve in your lives, even in this place, so you won't remain in this place of being stony, of being walled off. And it took me a while, and I said to her, be patient with me because this is new for me, letting people in, because I had her in a certain place. It's like, you stay there and we'll be good. And she made a comment. We need to be at a place where we can offend each other and not fall out.
Mm.
That it's okay, because in relationship, you're going to offend each other. Something is going to happen because we're different people that is going to offend. And she said that, and everything within me just started shaking and trembling. It's like, oh God, this too much. It's like, do I want that wall back, or do I want to go into another place in relationship, because she has an assignment in my life. And um, that helped me to move into another place, because what I heard is, I'm not looking for a perfection from you, and you don't need to look for a perfection from me, because we're both human and we're going to mess up. We're going to mess up. Um, and okay, it's 6:30. Oh, this book is so good. This is just the first 13 pages, you all. Okay, so I want to honor our time because it's 6:32. Next week, we're going to go further. This area, though, of conditional love and unconditional love is critical as we look at even how we came up and how we perceived the type of love that was taking place in our homes, because that's what shaped our perception when we interact with other people. Yeah, this is a good place. And then even looking at, if you're operating with a protective wall, if you're operating with a protective wall. Okay, if you haven't ordered your book, I'm going to put the link at the top again. You can get it from Amazon. This is a powerful book, even from the first page is powerful, because it uncovers. That's its goal. It's to uncover, to help us to identify, so that we can deal with those stones are in our hearts. The Father wants us to have hearts of flesh, hearts that are pliable, hearts of compassion. That's how his heart is. And this book really helps us to take a look at where we even may be loving conditionally and not unconditionally like the Father. Thank you, Violet, for coming on this morning and for sharing this morning. I just want to shout out to a couple of people. Hey there, Coach Marsha. Hey there, Jonisha. Hey there, cousin Raven. I see you all this morning. I'm praying that you've had an opportunity to get your book. If not, please get your book. Looking forward to next week as we go a little bit further in this book, Stony Heart. I'm only pulling out certain sections. And if you've read it, you know that there is so much in this little book, but it's good. It's good. It's heart good. And that's what we're working on this year. We're working on our hearts, because the word of God tells us to give diligence to guarding our hearts, because from it flows the issues of life. What's in my heart, what's in here determines how we live our everyday lives. And we want to be healthy. We want to be healthy, so that we're healthy in relationship, and so that we see things correctly. Amen. I love you guys. Looking forward to talking with you soon. Blessings for your day.